Welcome back to the Female Dating Strategy, the meanest female-only dating podcast on the internet. I'm your host, Diana.
And I am Rose, and today we have a very special edition that is all about me. Me. Tell them what we've got today, Diana.
So we thought, seeing as we're getting close to the holiday season and it's been a tough year, we wanted the chance to both reflect and also just do like a light, fun sort of episode for you today. Nothing heavy, just something goofy, just something light to end the year with. So this is a two-parter, and we are FDS takes on astrology today. I know many of you, some of you may not believe in it. It's fine. You don't have to take it seriously. I don't. This is just a fun, goofy episode. So just chill out already, okay? Let's just chill out.
Chill out, sit back and relax.
Yeah, just be read to filth by us astrologically.
Well, this is really fun because this all started when, I don't know if you remember a couple episodes back, dear listeners, but Diana had talked about one of her friends who had read her, medicine cards?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? And after we got that call, or after we got off that session, I was like, hey, I would love to have that done. And Diana was like, well, I do Vedic readings. And I was like, oh, could we do one? And she was like, absolutely. And I was like, well, why don't we record it? That could be like one of our fun episodes because, astrology to me is like religion. I could take it or leave it. I sort of selectively pick out the things I do or do not believe in. But what I think it does is I think it provides, like the tarot cards, it provides these archetypes that transcend cultures and languages and time itself. Because ultimately what they're examining are the psyches themselves of humanity. And that's something that I think is always apropos.
Mm-hmm. And something I take great pride in is that, first of all, let me just make a correction. I actually don't do Vedic astrology. I do Hellenistic astrology, which is the ancient Greek astrology. So there's many different, there's Placidus and there's Hellenistic, and then there's like, Chinese zodiac, which is completely different. And then you've got Vedic astrology. And Vedic astrology is very intense and it's very different. Because in Vedic astrology, they don't follow the sun signs, they follow the moon signs. Your moon sign is a lot more relevant than your sun sign in Vedic astrology. So technically in my Vedic astrology, I'm a Virgo. But that is not what I am in my Hellenistic, my Western zodiac. I'm a Leo. So the difference is, so let me just give a very brief primer on how this works, right? So most people are probably familiar with sun signs. And those are like the stereotypical, I'm a Taurus, so that means I'm super stubborn. And I'm an Aries, that means I'm super impulsive. And I'm a Pisces, so that means I just cry a lot or whatever. You know what I mean? These false stereotypes that are very limited. But that's not usually how charts are read. Usually the sun sign that you have represents your ego. It represents your highest self. So in some ways it represents the obstacle you'll have to overcome in order to achieve your highest self. And then your moon sign is who you are in private when no one is watching. The moon sign is probably more honest to who you actually are. So when you look up your moon sign, that's when you figure out, it controls who you are internally. So I would say it's a more accurate assessment of who you are than your sun sign, because your sun sign is your ego. And then how people perceive you is your rising sign, or as it's called sometimes, your ascendant. And that is usually the sign that's on your first house. And that's how people see you when they meet you. So for example, I have a Leo sun, a Libra moon, and a Virgo rising. So people really pick up on my Virgo a lot. They think I'm a very serious and critical person. And you probably have also picked up on that in this podcast. So I come across as very earth signy, even though technically I'm a fire sign. And it's very interesting because Rose and I are polar opposites. She's a water sign, she's a Pisces, and I'm a Leo. So you've got fire and water. You're in water and I. What is the fire? The song of fire and ice right on this podcast.
I was just going to say, it's we're East meets West, we're fire and we're water. No wonder we ended up being co-hosts. We're the perfect yin and yang, Diana. Look, it was written in the stars.
It was. It was. So, we're not going to give you anything heavy at the end of this year just because we know it's been a very difficult year. It's been difficult politically. It's been just it's been a lot. It's been a year of transitions. I know for me personally, I have been through a lot this year, both good and bad. I know it's the same for Rose. And I think one of the best things that happened for us this year was that we got to join the podcast. And I mean, it's been a few months now, but it's crazy. This has been a very positive experience for the two of us. So we just want to give you something fun, something you can put on and listen to while you're riding your bike or just cleaning up or doing something. This episode is purely to entertain.
I love pure entertainment. And Diana, sorry that I had mischaracterized the Vedic instead of the Hellenistic.
Oh, no, that's fine. We had that conversation ages ago, so it's totally fine.
Thanks for the clarification. And then my thing to you, I was just going to ask was, first of all, thank you for like talking about the sun sign, the moon sign. But what's this first house? Is there only one house? What does that mean?
So the way that your chart is read is based on a combination of factors. One is like your big three houses, your sun, moon, and your rising. And your rising is your first house, and there are 12 houses. So each house controls a different aspect of your life. And I'm going to go over what each house controls, right?
And Diana, just to be clear for our listeners, you specifically did a reading of my chart, right? Yes. So I gave her the date, the time, like specifically to the minute, and the location, the geographic location where I was born. And these were all the factors that she needed in order to conduct a reading for me. And I'm really excited. So that's partly what we're looking at. We're doing a reading, a close reading of me, and we're going to extrapolate it from there and kind of go into what else we might learn about ourselves and how we could just like have fun, frivolities, because sometimes that's just what we need.
And you know what? I'm going to try to keep it with the FDS twist of like the kinds of dating mistakes each sign tends to make. You know, and you can let us know if you ever done that.
I like that idea. Good call.
Because I've seen some patterns with some of you and I spent a lot of time observing. So first of all, let me just go over each house. And like how we'll structure it is we're going to give something to everyone. So today we're starting with Pisces, which is not usually what we start with because Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. It's the 12th sign. But we're starting with Pisces and then moving on to Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, and Leo. And then the next episode that we do, we're going to be doing the other 6. So if you're not on this one, I mean, I would still encourage you to watch. I mean, just to listen, just because it's fun. But, you know, if you are a Virgo and you're upset that I'm going to waste your time, as you Virgos are, go and listen to it next week, okay? The next time we do this.
And the reason why we're starting with the last sign in the zodiac is because I rose AMA Pisces.
Yep, and I'm a Leo. So you're starting with you and ending with me. And okay, so the first house has to do with the house of self. It is about appearances, beginnings, first impressions, attitude, identity, and your approach to life. So whichever sign you have in your first house is usually very present in your personality, and that is usually what people pick up about you. So people are not going to pick up your Pisces-ness right away unless you also have Pisces in your first house. If you have a Pisces sun and a Pisces rising, then you come off extremely Pisces. You know what? I haven't pulled up your chart, but it's been a little while since I pulled up your chart. But let me just go over all of the houses and then I'll talk a little bit about Pisces, okay? So first house has to do with the self. Second house has to do with work. So it's your money, work, income, daily routines, values, material possessions, priorities, habits, your job, and work ethic. The third house is the mind, the way you communicate, siblings, social activities, interests, and neighbors, and early education. The fourth house is the house of the home and family. Sometimes it's associated with motherhood and femininity, your emotions, self-care, and your roots. And fifth house has to do with your creativity, romance, love. This has to do more with like love affairs and play, fertility, your inner child, joy. And so it has a lot to do with creativity. It's a little bit different from the seventh house, which has to do with like contracts and marriage. This is more like love, and like the fifth house is more romance and creativity, and the seventh house is more marriage and partnerships. So the sixth house is about your health, fitness, systems, pets, work habits, organization, sense of usefulness, your service, your acts of service. Seventh house has to do with relationships, marriage, contracts, business partners, equality, sharing, and interpersonal style. Eighth house is the house of the occult. It has to do with the merging of sex. It has to do with sex. It has to do with merging of assets, intimacy, shared finances, inheritance. Sometimes inheritance doesn't refer to financial inheritance. It can also mean emotional inheritance, taxes, loans, assets, property, joint ventures, goals, mystery, and partners' resources. Ninth house, which is one of my favorite houses, is the house of travel. It has to do with higher learning and wisdom, philosophy, law and religion, cross-cultural relations, learning, and ethics. 10th house has to do with fatherhood. So like I said, the 4th house is motherhood and the home. The 10th house is career and fatherhood. So career, long-term goals, structure, status, reputation, public image, masculinity, men, fathers, and fame. 11th house is your house of friendship, groups, social awareness, humanitarianism, hopes and wishes for the future. And then finally, the 12th house has to do with the closure and ending of your life, healing, spirituality, your karma, old age, the afterlife, your limiting beliefs, and your subconscious.
Ooh, that's juicy.
Yep. So every single person has all of these 12 houses, okay? And every single person has placements in these houses. Sometimes certain houses are empty, And the way that we interpret it, like at least in the Vedic astrology, the way that they do it is that if you have an empty house, it usually means that you had less work to do in that area because you did it in a previous life. In Hellenistic, it's a little bit different. An empty house just means that that is not the aspect that you have to focus on in this life. Sometimes you'll have lots of placements in a singular house, and that means that you have what we call a stellium. Usually, if you have more than 3 signs in a house, that means that you have a lot of work to do in that area. It doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to struggle with it. It just means that that is an area of life that you will have to attend to in this life. Okay? So let's talk about Pisces. Let's start with Pisces.
Yes, let's do it.
So
I'm so glad we get to start with us because we always are the last. And like I was telling Diana, my last name is also like one of the XYZ ones. And so both as astrologically and linguistically, I'm always coming up last. I hate it. Why? So very delighted today to be leading off with Pisces.
Yeah, so we're kicking off with Pisces because I think that Pisces and the following sign Aries are very interesting signs in how they're like the first and the last of the signs. The Pisces is kind of like the old wise woman of the zodiac because basically what people believe is that it has a little bit of all of the other zodiacs because it is the last sign. And so one of the common traits that Pisces people have is an endless sense of optimism and idealism. They're very idealistic people. They want to believe in the best of people. They're very emotionally intuitive people. They're a water sign. And so each of the signs are separated into like, you know, a tonality, like they're mutable signs. Mutable means that they're like flexible. Fixed signs means they're a little bit more rigid. And cardinal signs are like the starters of the zodiac. So Pisces is a mutable sign. And what that means is that they're very flexible people. They're very open-minded. They tend to believe the best in people because they want to be challenged. They want to be shown that there is hope. Like, they're the most hopeful people you meet. Like, they're hopelessly hopeful. Let's call them that.
Remember how I've talked before and you were like, Rose, no wonder you call yourself such a Pollyanna because it's literally written in your sign. I was like, oh, that does make a lot of sense because I always call myself a realistic optimist. I mean, life has helped me temper my optimism, but it's never going to beat it out of me. I refuse.
No. The Pisces is always going to be the last person standing when it comes to, because the thing is, part of why they see the best in everybody is because they have a little bit of everybody in them. They have everyone's wisdom in them. They have a little bit of each sign in them by being the last sign. And they close out the season. And also, Jesus is a Pisces, by the by.
Ooh.
Technically.
Whoop, there it is.
Okay, people think he's a Capricorn because he's Capricorn, I think, based on December 25th. What is that? I think it's a Capricorn. Yeah, it's a Capricorn. He is in no way, if he was a Capricorn, he would let us all burn to death, okay? There's no way in hell Jesus is a Capricorn. He's a Pisces through and through. Because you have to believe in humanity to think it's worth saving. You know what I mean? A Capricorn is going to be like, this shit is inefficient, let's just end it now.
Burn it down.
So Pisces often, you know, because they're associated with the 12th house, which is the house of closures, because, you know, 12th sign, 12th house, they are a very spiritual sign. They're very intuitive. They usually have some kind of spiritual practice, even if it's like, you know, nature worshiping or sun worshiping. They usually believe in something. They're very optimistic, very idealistic people, and very creative people. People who have Pisces moons, they tend to be excellent writers, like very communicative. There are lots of people who get into the arts or get into creative fields that are Pisces. And it's because they just have this natural instinct to connect with other people. They're very, very optimistic. And they're usually the people who, like, I've had a lot of Pisces friends who are like, oh yeah, I think I'm going to get married this year. And then like at the end of the year, they're like married to someone that they met in like the most fantastical way. And it's like, it's straight out of a movie. And they're the only people who can believe in that. And that's kind of their downfall as well. Pisces is one of those signs that believes in the best, but then sometimes attracts the worst because of it. Because people are drawn to their goodness, people are drawn to their positivity. There is a severe lack of optimism in the world that we live in right now. And so if you're just an abundantly positive person, you are going to attract the wrong sorts of people sometimes. I find that with a lot of the water signs, just because they are a little bit more emotionally wired, they tend to be more forgiving of scrotacity. And so you have to be careful as a Pisces maybe when you were younger, you felt this way more than you do now, because obviously you're past your, what we call your Saturn return. Like you skip through 29. And that's usually your roughest years of your life. Like, that's why people get so anxious about turning 30. Because like that period, like every 29.5 years, Saturn returns to the position it was when you were born. And then like your life is a shit show for like a year. And so a lot of people really hate 29 to like 30, like the middle of 30, 31, because it's like the roughest time of your life. Okay. Everything is going down at that stage of your life. Like lots of people feel that anxiety. And it usually like the way that we explain it astrologically is that you're going through your Saturn return.
So it's not because you're over the hill and your eggs have dried up and your worth as a woman has expired.
Not even a little bit. Like part of the reason why I got into astrology is I'm a very big fan of the Greek myths. And so I was very interested in astrology from like the Greek myth perspective. So Saturn, or as it's known in like the god of like the Greek god is Kronos. And Kronos is the god of time. He is the god of death. He's the god of karma. And he's also like the inspo for the Grim Reaper. That's why he has the sickle, because he harvests the soul when it's at its prime. And you're at your prime when you die, like because you had a full human life. So Kronos is very strict with his children because he is the master of time. So Father Time is very strict with his children. So if you have a Saturn-ruled planet, do we have any Saturn-ruled planets today? No, we don't. The Saturn-ruled planets are next session. But if you have a planet that's ruled by Saturn, you can't fuck around. And everybody goes through a Saturn return. This is something that's inescapable. When you're 29 to 30, 31, you are going to have the shittiest time of your life for like a year. Okay, and that's because that period of your life is really to teach you the lessons you refuse to learn for the first 29 years of your life.
Boy, that is so true. I'm just looking back on my own life, and from 29 to 31, there was so much upheaval, but there was also a lot of growth and planting of new seeds, which have sprouted with time.
Massive things happen in that period. Like people die, you drop out of school, you get laid off from a job, you have a terrible breakup, you go through a health crisis. Like whenever I speak to people with their Saturn turns, they're like, oh my God, now that you mention it, my 29 turning 30, turning 31 was horrible. The lead up to 30 was worse than 30 itself.
Yeah. Oh, that's so fascinating.
Yep. And that's the astrological explanation. The second time you go through that is when you're 60. So that's another stage. Or like a few decades, maybe.
I got time.
You got time.
So what else are we looking at then?
What do you mean?
So we were talking about Saturn coming around at the 29th, and you were saying with the Pisces that I'm past that already. So
yeah, so I mean, with Pisces signs, I think in general, Pisces tends to be overtly optimistic. And also, there's some famous Pisces that do really well for themselves, like Rihanna is a Pisces.
Mm-hmm. Rihanna and Jesus. I mean, this is the kind of company I keep, Diana.
Rihanna and Jesus. Oh, you know what? You know who else? The Sprinkle Sprinkle Lady is a Pisces.
Oh my God, Sheer 7? That's so funny. Sheer 7.
Yep. So Pisces is one of those signs that, like, you know, they're like Sansa Stark. Like, they may be slow to learn, but when they learn, they learn. You know, when they learn, they learn. They may take time. They may believe in people. They may, you know, be a little bit more optimistic and a little bit more delulu about the people around them. But when they learn, they don't go back from that. So yeah, very imaginative people, like incredibly emotionally sensitive, very vulnerable and compassionate. But also, you know, the positives of that sign also can be a negative, right? Because when you're too vulnerable, are you too vulnerable to criticism? When you're too emotional, are you too emotional to the point where you can't rationalize? You know, if you're very highly creative and imaginative, are you too delulu? Right? And that's with every zodiac sign, right? Like the things that are their strength can also be their weakness. And like Pisces is known for like being incredibly dreamy. They have a lot of empathy. They just have a flair. Like when you told me that, you know, you're like, you have a great sense of fashion, I was like, well, yes, like Rihanna is the fashionista. You know, she is like the trendsetter for a lot of the women now. Like a Pisces person is always going to be well put together. They're always going to have like that flair for style.
And you know what else, Diana? In the Chinese astrology, I'm a rooster. In other words, I strut around and I crow and like, you know, I dress myself up because the rooster always has to look impeccable. So between my roosterness and my Piscesiness, I am the fashion. Fashion is me.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm a rooster too, actually.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Look at us. Once again, look at our twinness.
Yeah, we're twins. We're twins.
Written in the stars, girl. Written in the stars. Okay, let's keep going. So these are the pluses. These are the potential minuses. Because, of course, as with anything, the excess is always what leads to ills, right? Like you always want to find the balance and walk the line between both.
Yep. So I would say with Pisces, what you have to be careful is you shouldn't be excessively romantic, prone to fantasy.
Oh. That's all the fun.
Overtly optimistic about the wrong people.
Oh, that's so true, though. That's so true.
Like, if you are Pisces, you are more prone to that than other people. And sometimes it can be a good thing, but I think that that's part of why, like, when you go through that learning curve, you come out the other end a lot more strong because you're like, you know what? I understand that what I have to give to the world is so valuable. I'm not going to waste it on people who don't deserve it. And I think that's the right attitude to have about it. And like I said, the famous Pisces, you got your Rihanna, you got Nina Simone.
Oh, my all-time favorite.
Yeah, you got like a lot of Pisces people are like great artists and great thinkers, and they just add so much to the world. So I think Pisces is a great sign. It's just a very lovey, beautiful, sweet, optimistic sign. Compared to its other water cousins, I will say it's just full of light. Because when you match it with Scorpio or Cancer, you're like, oh my God, like, you know what? Some optimism is a good thing.
I know, right? It's so true. What's really interesting to me is that, like, a lot of people disbelieve. They think I'm putting on an act because I'm just a positive, loving, affectionate, optimistic person. And they think I'm playing at something. They think I've got like a ulterior motive because nobody can really be like that. And I've always just been like, no, this is me, And I couldn't understand why people had such a hard time trusting and believing. Well, of course, with time, I've come to learn that there are many people who do put on false masks and misrepresent themselves, right, to ill faith.
And I think that's very devastating for the Pisces spirit because ultimately, because you have a little bit of everyone in you, like I said, like you see yourself in other people as well. And you so want to believe the best in them. But I think it's even more devastating for them because I think that they really are the ultimate optimists. I really do think that they want to believe in better. And that's why, that's why I'm so intrigued by women like Shira Seven, because she had to go through some shit to be like in the position that she's in right now, where she's just very un-Piscean in the way that she operates now. And that really does come from absorbing all that wisdom from her youth and from other women and from all these other experiences she's probably had to reach the stage that she's in right now. So I think a Pisces in control of their emotions is a very powerful thing.
This is why I've really loved working with you and FDS, because we often, laud ruthlessness as a strategy. And this is something that has really taken me a long time to learn to embrace because it has always felt so antithetical to who I am. But what the world has taught me and what people have shown me time and time again is that I have to temper my natural inclination towards optimism because not everybody operates the way I would like to believe they would, right? And so that's also wisdom. Wisdom just has to come with time. Okay, so that is my sun sign. Did you find out what my moon is?
Yeah, I do have it up here somewhere, but since we are going through the other signs, should we go through all the other signs and then dial back? Because like with time, how do you want to do that?
Well, you know what? I'm all about me.
I mean, I'm happy to sprinkle in, but you know what? I'm happy to go to the others and sprinkle in the comparisons with you because I'm going to pull up your chart because I'm like, where the hell did I put it? I'm so sure that you sent it to me. Can you resend it to me so that I can open it up? All right, so I had a look at your chart and it turns out you have a sun and a moon Pisces. So you're extra dreamy.
I am a little dreamer at my heart of hearts. It's true.
And you have a Gemini rising, so you love to talk.
It's true. I do love a good chit chat. I thought that was because I was from the Midwest, but apparently it's because of my first house.
Well, Gemini is a very sociable sign. It's, ruled by the planet Mercury, which rules communication. They love to yap. They're very curious about other people, and they're just incredibly charming. So it makes total sense that you have a Gemini in the first house because it makes you a perfect fit for the podcast. And you also have that ethereal, dreamy quality of Pisces, like a double Pisces sun moon whammy. Like I am not surprised at all. In fact, I remember that you had a lot of Pisces in your chart. Your Venus is a Pisces, your Mars is a Pisces. Good God, you have like 4 Pisces like roaming around in your chart. Like so much Pisces.
Didn't you say if there's like 3 houses or more with like the same, that meant that there was something they were going to work on or face a lot in their life?
Yeah, so you have a lot of placements in your 10th house, which is your house of career. So usually that could mean that either you had some struggles with your career at some point or that this is an area of life that you have to attend to. And also the Pisces placements that I'm talking about are all in your 10th house. So very Piscean energy in your 10th house. You've got your Sun, Moon, Venus, and Mars, which are all in Pisces and in the 10th house. So you have a stellium in your 10th house. So yeah, and the key to unlocking it is also in trusting your intuition, in believing in your imagination and creativity. Like maybe, what I would interpret it as is like, maybe your unique talents and creativity was not appreciated in a more corporate sort of lifestyle, because the career is like, it's also the house of Capricorn. So it's like very strict, very rigid, very much to do with discipline and order and rigidity. And the Pisces is like the opposite of that, flexible, mutable, flowing water energy. And so it like, I can imagine that having those placements, your sun, your inner self, your ego, the Venus is the way you love, Mars is the way that you fight, the way that you, like, it's the planet of regression. It's the way that you move through life, the way that you handle conflict, the way that you handle business. So all of these signs happen to be in Pisces, and they also happen to be in your 10th house. So from what I'm seeing from it, it seems like your 10th house was probably a difficult spot for you in your life. You also have a stellium in your 5th house. So lots of stuff with tapping into your creativity and your romance, like the love affairs, the creativity, your inner child, lots of work that needed to be done in there as well.
And I have been doing the work in both houses, and I'm telling you, life has never been better.
I know. That's great. That's really good to hear. That's awesome.
Remember I told you I was entering my shares, Mom, I am a rich man phase?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's because my career is picking up, and I have recovered a lot of the joy that I lost through my arduous slog through 20s and 30s in corporate America and just, late stage capitalism in general. So this is very interesting. Is it common to have stelliums throughout your charts?
No, not. It's not that common to have stelliums. Sometimes, like, if you have double stellium too, like you have, 4 placements in the 10th house and 4 placements in the 5th house, that's not usually common. No, I wouldn't say that's common.
That's what I'm saying. We're finding a lot of uncommonalities, and I'm really intrigued. Let's keep going.
Yeah. So shall we move on to the next sign?
Yes.
All right. So the next sign is Aries. And bear in mind, I will sprinkle some of your chart stuff into this as well, but I also want to give our listeners their dose of fun. So let's go into Aries, which is probably, I find it to be a very, like, Aries is so, like, each sign, there's like a different energy with them when it comes to like fire, right? So each sign has an element, each sign has a modality. So the modality refers to like whether it's a mutable sign, a cardinal sign, or a fixed sign. Let's explain it as cardinal are like the initiators, they're the starters, they're the ones who start the project. The fixed signs are the ones who maintain the project. They make sure that people commit and stay on top of it. And then the mutable signs are the closers. They want to move on to the next thing. So Pisces is a mutable sign. It wants to move on to the next thing, right? Aries, I believe Aries is a cardinal sign. Yeah, I think so. And Aries is fire signs. If I had to compare the 3 fire signs, there's Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Aries is like, okay, Leo is like a warm bonfire, consistent, you know what you're getting. Sagittarius is like a flicker of a match in like the wind, like flighty, at any moment they want to like vanish off and travel for 10 months and you never hear from them again. But Aries is like an inferno, okay? Because Aries is ruled by Mars, the planet of aggression. And Aries also refers to the Greek god who is the god of war. So Aries are like always on top of the ball. Like Aries women are like the ultimate girl bosses. Okay, they are intense, they are passionate, they're impulsive, they love hard, but they have a kind of like a stubbornness in that if somebody tells them it can't be done, they will do it just out of spite. They are people who are like extreme initiators. Like they love challenges. They have a strong desire for independence. They're very bold, but they're also very easy to anger. So I really I have a lot of fire sign friends. I have a lot of Aries friends. And they have, like, in my experience with my Aries friends, like they have a great sense of humor. They just don't take things very seriously. It's one of the things I really like about them. Every single Aries person I met has a great sense of humor. And I'm speaking about Aries women specifically because Aries men are like, let's not even go there. Okay. Let's just start with every single sign of the zodiac. If you're a guy, you suck. Okay. And you suck in different ways. Let me just say, anytime I've had to explain, like people are like, oh, what do you want to end up with a Leo man? I'm like, no. Do you want to end up with a Pisces man? Not unless I want to be emotionally manipulated into giving up my own life. No. Okay. Like if I had to bring up Pisces man, Justin Bieber. Okay. Leo man. Okay. Who are the terrible Leo men? Are there any terrible Leo men? There must be some. Oh, Ryan Reynolds is a Leo man. Okay.
Well, that explains a lot, actually.
Right. But then again, Daniel Radcliffe is also a Leo man, and I think he's a lot better. I think he's okay.
He's a lovely person. At least it seems like he is.
Yeah. Who is, yeah, and you know what? One of my all-time favorite men is a Pisces, and it's Alan Rickman. Alan Rickman's a Pisces.
Alan Rickman was a Pisces, my beloved Alan Rickman. Oh, I love him. My grandfather's hammer. I mean, he was in so many great movies, it's like impossible to quote him, but I always loved the Galaxy Quest. Yes, that was it.
So yeah, now you got three things, right? You got fire. So you got the four elements. You got fire, earth, water, air, and then you've got the modalities, which is like the fixed, cardinal, and mutable. But then you also have a third part of it, which is, oh my god, I've already forgotten what the third part of it is.
It'll come back. Don't worry about it.
It'll come back. Give me a second. Okay, the third part of it is the feminine and masculine. So the elements, the fire and air are the masculine elements, and water and earth are the feminine elements. Okay, and that has to do more with like action and introspection, and less to do with gender stereotypes. Let me just start there, because in my experience, whenever I've seen a woman who is in a masculine element, they usually tend to do really well, because I think our world supports women with that energy. Like the sign of Aries, for example, is a very masculine energy, right? It's about, because it's the planet of aggression, it's the planet of taking initiative, it's the planet of just being cutthroat, right? And our world supports that kind of energy. So I find that women who have like the masculine elements in their charts tend to do really well with them in general, because it helps them in aspects of their life, like their career, or being more assertive, being more of an initiator when it comes to friendships. But for whatever reason, whenever I see men who have like water sign or earth sign energy, they always wind up being either incredibly pretentious or incredibly annoying. I don't know what it is, but men cannot master the elements of femininity, because part of those elements is a predisposition to introspection, which a lot of men lack. And if you have a lot of feminine elements, like say that you have a lot of Scorpio in your chart, right? Scorpio has to do with like getting deep into yourself. It's a very introspective sign. It's a sign that requires you to not bullshit with yourself. It's a sign that wants depth. And if you don't do it, like, you're just an emotionally insecure mess, okay? You're just a person who just does not want to deal with your own self. Like, you lash out at people, you're easily angered, right? Because it's a rejection of the self. So a lot of the feminine signs, like, doesn't necessarily have to do with gender roles of like, oh, you're in your feminine energy. It has to do a lot with how these signs express themselves. And a lot of the fire signs, they do things by action. They're very action-oriented signs. Earth signs can also be action-oriented signs. They're nurturing.
One thing I was going to mention was when you talk about like the feminine and the masculine energies, it sounds like it's more from the Taoist perspective, whereas like in the natural world there are these different energies. It doesn't really have to do with genitalia.
No, it has to do with balance. It has to do with balance. I once met a woman who had like 6 Gemini placements, and I was like, "You're a lesbian, aren't you?" And she was like, "Yep." I just knew. I just looked at her chart and I was like, because there was no feminine element in her chart, and I was like, I have a very strong suspicion you're a lesbian. And she was like, yeah, I am. Just how you figured that out from my chart? And I was like, yeah, because you don't have a single feminine element in your chart. Now, I'm not saying that if you don't have it, you're automatically a lesbian. It's just that she was a Gemini, and that case just gave me extremely chaotic energy. I was like, you are a chaotic lesbian, I can tell. And she was like, wow. I can't believe that you figured this out. Reading my chart, I was like, yeah, I don't know, just something read lesbian to me. But anyway, going back to Aries for a second. Aries is, there are these, like, the problem with Aries is they're very impulsive. If you're an Aries woman, you are a very impulsive and very impatient person. You are a person that will walk away. Sometimes it's a good thing. Like, you are definitely the kind of sign that will walk away at the first sign of bullshit. But you also tend to be very impulsive, so you'll get into relationships very impulsively as well. You have to watch out for that sense of impatience. It's very hard for them to deliberate and then take action. They're like, let's just do it. Let's shoot first and ask questions later. They're very much that kind of sign. So you got to be very careful when you're in Aries, because you are prone to being, predisposed to impulsiveness and irritation and anger and just general impatience in general. When I look at your chart, I think you do have Aries somewhere. Where do you have Aries in your 11th house? That has to do with your house of friendships, I think. Right? Yeah, your friendships. So you're probably very assertive with how you make your friends. You're probably not a shy wallflower when it comes to making friends, which is a good thing.
Correct. Yes, that's why I always have friends wherever I go. I mean, I've joked about my home state being the exporter of the world's number one exporter of the world's best friend. But maybe I'm just talking about myself there.
It's a good export, okay? There could be worse. It could be worse. You could export anything else, you know? You could export guns and shit. So yeah, I would say with Aries women, you know, they usually tend to be very good in their careers. They tend to be very career oriented in general. They tend to be people who are, they tend to be people that get very anxious when they don't have something going on. They need to have shit going on. They are not the kind of people who could sit idle and just like dream. A Pisces can do that. You can leave them for hours and they'll come back and be like, I had the most wonderful day. If you leave an Aries alone like that, they'll be like, why the fuck did you send me out to torture myself? Like, you should have given me some shit to do. You know what I mean? So very different energy in that Aries, think of it as like the baby of the zodiac because it's the first sign of the zodiac. The Pisces is like the end, right? It's the 12th sign. It has a little bit of maturity. It has experience because it has a little bit of everyone in them. It's been through what everyone has been through. So it comes with the wisdom of experience. But Aries comes with like that newness, that novelty of being like a fresh baby, just like, oh my God, I want to go and experience everything. I want to see the world. I want to do all of this stuff. So that energy is great, but sometimes it has to be tempered with common sense. So that's what I'd watch out for with Aries. Just mind your common sense.
What happens if Aries don't work to develop themselves and like become their higher self?
I have seen, like, you know what, Aries, like every sign has also similarities to the sign right next to it. I think that Aries and Taurus are very similar in the sense that they can be very stubborn about like change. Like if they want to do something a certain way, you can't change their mind. They tend to, at least with Taurus, I mean, with Taurus, I feel like they keep making the same mistakes over and over again. We'll get into them in a second. But like with Aries, it's like the definition of insanity. They'll do the same thing multiple times until it stops making sense to them. And then they'll change. They have to learn the hard way. They are very resistant to having people put in their 2 cents. They are very much experiential learners, you know? So they will continue to make the fuck ups until they wake up, but they do wake up. Taurus is a lot more rigid about it. Taurus, even if they do wake up, they're like, well, I'm not going to prove, you know, like, I just want to be in a position to say, I told you so. So they're not going to change quite so easily. You know what I mean? So, but with Aries, it's like, when they're unhealed, they tend to be extremely hot-tempered and just overtly impulsive with their decision making, poor decision making, impulsive decision making, careless decision making. I would say that's where that steps in with Aries, is that they have to not let their hot-headedness rule everything. Not that every Aries is a hot-headed person, but I have experienced the impulsiveness of Aries, in that sometimes it's fun to be the spontaneous person, but like, don't spontaneously decide to move in with a hobo. You know what I mean? Like, that is not what we're talking about when we say spontaneous, okay? Don't spontaneously move into a scrote's apartment because he just had, like, I don't know, a nice jacket or something. Don't be spontaneous. Like, you know, temper your spontaneity. This is how I was. Like, with balance. I think with Aries, the key thing I'm telling them is you need to have balance. Okay, it's a sign that has a lot, consumes, like I said, it's an inferno. It's a much stronger fire. It's the most fiery of the fire signs. It's this very strong, fiery energy. So they got to be careful. Okay. Then we got 4 more to go. So I'm going to speed through it. We got Taurus. All right. Taurus is an earth sign. It's a fixed sign. So they're very rigid, very stubborn, but very stable. The Queen of England was a Taurus. And under her reign, it was a fairly stable society. And then she died and shit went to hit the ceiling, okay? And her son is a Cancer, so different energy. But Taurus, you know, my grandmother's a Taurus, so it's very dependable, very reliable energy. The first love I ever had was a Taurus. Like, multiple men I've dated are Tauruses. Like, they are the provider kind of people, okay? Taurus is ruled by the planet of Venus. It has to do with material wealth and possession. A Taurus is a person that, like, wants to be in comfort. They will never buy itchy, shitty stuff that's on trend. They like the finest shit. Like, they want to go to they're big. Also, most Tauruses I know are huge foodies. I don't know what it is. Like, maybe it has to do more with like the physical body and the material realm, but they're very into food. They're very sensual people. I think Sabrina Carpenter is a Taurus. Very sensual people, very oriented around material pleasure. They are a fun time to be around, but they can be very rigid in mindset. With Taurus, it's like a lot of Taurus women I've met are in relationships with men that they refuse to move away from because they've gotten comfortable in the discomfort. You know what I mean? They are people who can get too comfortable being in a bad position and don't want to change that situation because they're too comfortable in that bad position. They're very averse to change. Like the bull. You cannot move a bull. You can't move something that doesn't, it's an immovable object. If it doesn't want to move, you can't move it. It will only go where it wants to graze. Each animal also has, Pisces is a fish. It's about, and also Pisces moves in groups, right? Schools of fish. They want to move in harmony. They want to move in sync. They want to move together in the water. Taurus is not like that. Taurus is a bull that wants to graze. It does not want to be angered. And they're very hard to anger. If you anger a Taurus, you fucked up bad, because they're usually very difficult to anger. They're usually very patient. If Aries is impatient, Taurus is exceedingly patient. Very patient people. Very difficult to piss off. But once they're pissed off, dear God, you got to be careful. With my grandmom, she was up for all my shenanigans. She rarely got mad at me. Because I knew the line. I knew that there was a line, and I never pissed her off to that extent. But they can be very rigid in mindset. Sometimes in hardship, this is the right mindset to have, because they can weather any storm. They're very resilient people. But sometimes it means that they are resistant to change. And sometimes change is what makes us better people.
I was going to say resilient to a fault, perhaps.
Yeah, resilient to a fault. They can weather any storm. They will be if you are looking for, when you're on a flight and there's turbulence and you're looking for the flight attendant to smile at you because you're okay, if she's smiling, we're good. Taurus is that kind of energy. You know what I mean? When they're they are reliable, stable energy. They are of the earth. They're the most earthy of the earth signs. They're all about enjoying themselves. They're all about luxury. Megan Fox is a Taurus. There are a lot of Tauruses, and Cher is a Taurus. Cher, I Am a Rich Man. That's Cher.
Yes. Oh my God. Cher is a Taurus. It's all becoming clearer now.
Yeah. So yeah, Taurus is I really love their energy. I've had a lot of Taurus friends growing up. I've had a lot of Taurus boyfriends growing up. The Taurus boyfriends were definitely the ones that were the most obsessed with me. They used to cook for me. They used to send me little origami. They used to send me little, the letters in the mail. Extremely romantic, extremely dependable, but very, very rigid. Very, very immovable sometimes. And not I would not call them spontaneous people.
Okay, the opposite, in other words.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so that's Taurus. Now, then we have Gemini. What about the Gemini?
Oh, geez, my dad was a Gemini. Okay, Donald Trump is a Gemini. So there's many kinds of Geminis. Let's start with that, okay?
Okay.
Gemini is ruled by the planet of communication, Mercury. And Mercury, if you know anything about the lore of Mercury in Greek mythology, he's very well liked by all the gods, which is rare, because usually the gods, every god hates some god, but Mercury is the only god that everyone likes. Because he's the life of the party. And that's usually what Gemini is. Gemini is the life of the party. They're very charming. They're very charismatic. They get along with a lot of people. They know everyone's business. They're very good at because they're the planet of communication. They are very good at gathering data and information about people. They can mesh well in any environment. You could put them anywhere and they would belong. And so, that's why people get, confused about the two-face thing. They're oh, they're two faces. They're two-faced people because they represent the twins. It represents the duality of Gemini, because it is both an extremely warm sign, but it's also an extremely calculating sign. And that's the two sides that it represents. It is a sign that is determining what are people that I can trust, what are people that I can share my information with, and where can I get this information from, and who should I share it with. I get along great with Geminis. That's because I'm a fire sign. And my dad is Gemini and he was a Leo moon. So I feel I bonded well with him because he had a Leo placement as well. But Geminis in general they can be too much for some people. I definitely find them fun. I think they're spontaneous. They definitely will show you a good time. And they're definitely someone you want to have in a party. But there are also people who are kind of detached. And I think for signs like earth signs and water signs that want a lot more commitment and want a lot more rootedness, they might seem flighty. But Gemini is just a very curious sign. That's why we call them mercurial, right? Because it's ruled by Mercury. They're very curious. They want to know about everybody. They want to learn. I don't know. It's they all have ADD or something.
I was going to say that are they the neighborhood gossip who has all the tea on everybody?
Well, you won't know that they have all the tea, but they might not necessarily share it with you. When they trust you, they'll share the tea with you. But they are people who are exceedingly curious, not just about other people, but about life, about books. They'll read, they're just very knowledgeable about a lot of things. They just love to gather information. They're just very, they can come across as extremely overstimulated, but that's because they need to have constant stimulation. And the problem with, I think, Gemini is that they can be a little bit flighty. They can be a little bit fickle. They can be I think that sometimes they don't overtly, like, I think that they don't pick up that other people are more invested in them than they are. Like, they might, like, a Gemini is a person who could completely confuse you into thinking, oh, this is very serious. And for Gemini, it's like, oh, no, this is fun. I'm having a great time. And then you're like, oh, yeah, we're moving towards something serious. And then you wake up one day and the Gemini is like, what? That's not me. Where did you get that impression? So I think if you're like a sign that's like an earth sign or a water sign that wants a lot more dependability, you should avoid a Gemini. But I think that Geminis get a bad rep. Let me just start there. Geminis get a bad rep because they have a lot of toxic representation. But like, the person who rooted for me the most in this life was a Gemini. And so I think I always have a soft spot for Gemini because I have had a very strong relationship with a Gemini in my life. And even though he was crazy in a good way, you know?
Well, I was going to say, we all need a little crazy. It's just like the degree of it is what really matters.
Yeah, there's a method to their madness. They're innovative. They're eccentric, and also, I hate to say, like, I have a mentor right now who is a Gemini, and like, as crazy as he is, I am in awe of his talent because I'm like, oh, damn it, he's right. And I say this a lot. You will say this a lot with Gemini. My aunt is a Gemini as well, and like, as much as I think I admire her so much, she's got like, she's a banker. She's doing so well for herself. She's like the OG single lady. Like, she's like, I didn't find anyone who was worth the bill, so I designed my life. And now, like, she's going to Ireland, renting out a castle with her friends, and like being driven around in a Mercedes. And I'm like, yeah, that is a Gemini. You know what I mean? Like, they live life large, and they like to bring people along with them. Like, they're like, if you want to learn anything about networking, you go to a Gemini. And Gemini women are so fun. But with my aunt, like, that's the thing. The two sides I get of her is like this very strict aunt who wants the best of me, but also an aunt who's extremely generous. So you'll always feel confused because they give you extremely parallel, very contradictory energy. But I find that you need both. You know what I mean? You need something that's nurturing, and you also need someone that will set you straight. And Gemini is both. So I feel like people give them a very bad rep for no reason, and they're a very controversial sign for no reason. But honestly, they are the world's yappers. We need their information. They have all the tea. You go to your nearest Gemini if you want to know what's going on. They will always know what's going on with everybody. And in many ways, I think they're very similar to Sagittarius in that they are the life of the party. And they usually are. They have a lot of very interesting interests. Like, they usually are, people who have hobbies. They go deep into the stuff that they're into. They may drop it after a little while, but they're usually people who go all in on their hobbies, and they usually have lots of interesting things going on.
I like that kind of attitude in a person. I like that they're interested in life. Okay, so that's the Gemini. And now we're up to Cancer.
Okay, my mom's Cancer. So Cancer and Leo, like I said, every sign is kind of similar to the sign that's right next to it. Cancer is ruled by the moon, and Leo is ruled by the sun. And Cancer, it has to do with the sign. It's ruled by the sign of motherhood. So, if Capricorn is the daddy of the zodiac, Cancer is the mom of the zodiac. And it has the nurturing compassion of the mother, but it also has the strict, don't try me bullshit, of the mother. And what I find with Cancer, okay, I'm going to say this. I'm sorry to hurt any Cancer's feelings on this podcast today, but Cancer is the sign that I find is most likely to encourage low-value men.
Why?
Because Cancer, similar to Pisces, has a great amount of empathy and intuition. But also the downside of it is that Cancer rides hard. Cancers are very loyal people to the ones that they love. They ride hard for the people that they love. And if they love wrong, if they pick the wrong person, then they love wrong. I mean, they fight hard for the wrong person. So Cancers have to watch out for that. I have seen, I had a friend who was a Cancer I had a falling out with earlier this year, and my mom is a Cancer, and oh my God, the polar energies that we have, her being ruled by the moon and me being ruled by the sun, is very different because the moon moves in phases. That's why people think that Cancer is very moody, because every day you get someone different. It's a lunar cycle, that you never get the same person every day. If Gemini is two people in one, Cancer is multiple personalities.
I like that explanation. Thank you.
Okay. So Cancer is it's a very emotionally intuitive sign. They have this distinct way of understanding what people need emotionally, but they also are very vulnerable to being manipulated by the same energy. People know, because they can manipulate their vulnerability, because they can manipulate their goodness, they can manipulate their desire to help people. They are very easily likely incapable of winding up with people who are not the best for them.
So they end up just making the same mistake over and over?
Yes, and it's very similar to Taurus in that they are more likely to stay because of with Taurus, it's more a rigidity, like a reluctance to experience change. They're averse to change, so they stay in that position because it's comfortable and that's what they know. But with the Cancer, it's from a misplaced sense of loyalty. If they really love you, it's very hard for them to let you go, even if you're not that great to them. That's the downside of it. Like my mom, I can see this with her with the kinds of people that she defends sometimes. I'm like, why are you defending this person? And she's like, well, I've been through this and that with them. And I'm like, yes, but they're not treating you well now. Right? Like, we're in the present. They're very rooted, like they have an insane sense of loyalty, very similar to Leo. Very, very strong sense of loyalty. And they tend to be very maternal. They tend to be very emotional. I mean, but you'll probably hear this with a lot of people being like, oh yeah, they're very emotional. And it's very simplistic. I don't think it's so much that they're emotional. I think it's that I think they pay a lot of attention to people. Very similar to Scorpio. They pay too much attention to people maybe sometimes, and so people's moods affect them. They're very easily affected by other people's energy. And so I think that when you're so in tune with other people's needs and energy, you're very likely to experience burnout. So my advice to Cancer is to be afraid of burnout, right? If Gemini is very fickle and very flighty and needs to commit and needs to be still and needs to invest, then Cancer needs to step back a little bit and not be too emotionally involved with people who are not deserving of you. Because they have an amazing sense of loyalty and they have a very good heart, but it's very easily taken advantage of.
Oh, Cancer, we must do better for you. And with that, we've got to our last one of this episode, the Leo.
Mm-hmm. And so the main difference between Leo and Cancer, I'd say Leo is ruled by the sun. Okay. And that's why we think everything is about us, because the sun is the center of our galaxy. All of y'all run around us. Okay.
Right. I was like, just to clarify, everybody remember, Diana is a Leo.
no, if it wasn't obvious. So the interesting energy, the difference is Cancer is a very maternal sign, water sign, feminine energy. Leo is a masculine sign, fire sign, and it is a very constant energy. Where Cancer is moon and it moves through phases, Leo is the constant sun. We rely on the sun coming out at the same time every day, because if the sun didn't come out, the world will be doomed. So sometimes Leos have one of the things I feel like people don't understand about Leos is that they feel a sense of a sense of duty and obligation to be on. And by on, I mean to be there for people in a way that is optimistic and hopeful. They're very similar to Pisces in that way, but it's a lot more showmanship, and it can be exhausting to be that way, because I'm constantly expected to be this positive fucking ray of sunshine. As much as I enjoy being that for other people, it is very tiring to be that way. So lots of Leos are kinds of people who like to spend time alone as well and recharge their batteries, because even though they love other people and they like being around other people, they don't all get their energy from being around other people. I'm very social, but I get drained easily, because I know that what people want from me in that moment, the energy they want from me is positivity, and people will come to me and say, oh my god, you're so inspiring, it's so fun to be around you, you're so optimistic, and anytime I'm around you, it's like a tonic, I feel so uplifted. And I'm like, great, that is not what I felt with you. You know what I mean? And I don't mean this in a mean way. I just mean this it's a very exhausting position that Leos are put in that we have to be, we don't have to be, but that is our energy and people expect that from us. So in a way that Cancer is forgiven for being moody and sullen and not always in a consistently happy mood, nobody would forgive a Leo for that, because it would be like, oh, they're throwing a tantrum. The diva didn't get attention today. So, I have to be in a good mood, because if I'm in a bad mood, people be like, oh, this diva's throwing a tantrum, So I don't get to throw a tantrum. I don't get to be a crybaby. I have to have the consistency of the sun. And again, the sun is needed as a source of life. It's a very different energy, right? We admire the moon for its beauty. We admire the moon for its ability to change, right? And we love and it's something you experience at night. Crabs are shy creatures. They're in their shell. They're soft and squishy on the inside. They have a hard shell outside and soft and squishy on the inside. A lion is the king of the jungle. It's the only animal that you're going to see with its balls out lying in the Serengeti. You know what I mean? It's not concerned. It's not concerned with the common folk. It is concerned with its own survival. And also, interestingly enough, the lioness is one of the few cat species that operate in packs. cats are solitary creatures. The lioness is the only one that is essentially a matriarchy. It is a group of hunters working together. So the lioness's energy is very different from the lion's energy. Leo women are 10 times cooler than Leo men. Let me just start out there.
Clearly, hello, we have your example as we speak.
We know that this is the truth for every sign, though. So that's that's the difference between like Cancer and Leo. Is like one is fire, one is water. One is this very inconsistent energy, this beautiful, loving energy, but can be prone to making choices that are not always in its best interest. I think with Leo, our thing is we have to be concerned with being too overtly flattered by people, because we love compliments and we love attention, and it's very easy to love bomb us. I will say that Leos tend to carry that queen princessy energy a lot, so they want people who spoil and pamper them in general. They're less likely compared to Cancer to wind up in a situation where they will put up with shit, because our ego prevents us from doing that. We want to be pampered and spoiled always. So if I feel like you're not, matching the 100% energy you gave to me on date one, I'm going to throw you away because I'm bored now. Gemini does that too. Gemini gets bored too.
So this is where the ruthlessness comes in.
Yeah, and I'm a Gemini Venus, by the way. The way I love is Gemini. So and the number one reason I've broken up with most of my boyfriends is boredom. So Leo and Gemini are very prone to breaking up with people out of boredom. Okay, because you have not matched the energy that you brought. This is not the energy that you brought in is not the energy you're sustaining. And Leo, because it's a fixed sign, is also a constant, consistent, stable, reliable energy. They want stability. They want reliability, which is why I was drawn to so many Tauruses. I like their reliability. I like the fact that I could count on them. I could rely on their emotional energy. But we want it at 100. We don't want you to be at like 100 today and 50 tomorrow. We want that consistency. Cancer, one of the things I will say, Cancers are those women who they love doting on their loved ones. They will cook for you. That's their love language. Like they will look after you. And that's why I'm like, be careful. Don't give that energy. Not every man deserves that energy.
Yeah. In FDS, don't we say don't do husband things when you...
Yeah, don't do wife duties at a girlfriend's salary or whatever. You know what I mean? Don't take a wife's position at a girlfriend's salary.
Yes,
don't do that. And Cancer is very able to do that because that's how they look after all their friends. That's how they love everyone. Pisces like that too. They're very loving. So when you're a very loving sign, you have to be careful about people who will take advantage of the fact that is how you love. Leo is,
in other words, the discriminating discernment really has to come into play for those signs.
Yeah. Leo is very different that way. Leo is the sun. Everybody rotates around us. We move and everybody follows. We don't think we are here to be loved. We're here to be worshipped. We are here for that energy. We are here to be admired. We're here to be loved. We do not believe we're the weaker sex at all. Okay.
And see, Diana, this is why I clamor to hear your viewpoints, because like the complementariness just reminds me of what sort of attitude I need to be bringing to temper all of my Pisces-ness.
Yeah, you know what? I have so many Leo friends. Dr. Ashley is also a Leo, by the way. I have so many Leo friends, and all we do is get together in packs and hype each other up. If you are the single solo woman in a group of Leo women, let me tell you, walk away from that interaction feeling like $1 million by the end of it. I love keeping Leo friends around me because that is we love that. Like my Leo friends are the first people who will hype me up. If I do even the most minor thing, I could wear a new pair of shoes and they're like, oh my God, Bella Hadid out here.
The shoes are amazing. Yeah, I love that. That's such a great attitude to have, seriously, especially in this day and age. We need that sort of, wingman or cheerleader, right? It does our hearts good. Well, Diana, we are just about out of time. Is there anything else we needed to discuss before we get to next week's part 2?
Well, next week's part 2, we've got Virgo and Libra and Scorpio and Sagittarius and Capricorn and one more person that I'm missing right now that I can't remember that will come back. If I missed you, I'm sorry.
You'll be here next week. Come back for that.
One of the other signs. You will be here next week, but we've got all these other signs the next week. And yeah, I hope you found this fun. We just wanted to do a light episode for everybody because, we've been talking about some pretty intense things the last few months. And we were like, you know what? Time to just cool it off and have a little bit of fun.
Yeah, and talk all about me. Because I was like, me. Let it all be about me.
Yeah, but and to close out, let's close out with you a little bit. So you have, every person has a little bit of every sign in them because of the way the 12 placements are. So each house is going to be ruled by a different zodiac sign. So you have a little bit of everyone. Okay, but you have Gemini energy. So lean into that. You are a very curious, charming, chatterboxy person. And Gemini in the first house is ideal, Pisces moon and Gemini rising is great for podcasts. Let me put it there. Like if you didn't have a podcast with this placement, I'd be surprised. If you were a man with this placement, you definitely have a podcast. Let me put it that way.
I'm glad I avoided becoming a podcast bro because of my birth gender. I love it. Well, Diana, this has been a delight. I really enjoyed it. It's so nice to hear you share your expertise and your knowledge. And again, come back and listen next week where we continue our deep dive into Hellenistic astrology with Diana.
Yeah. All right. Bye, everyone. And as usual, Dimats Goats, this was not for you. It doesn't matter what zodiac you are, you all suck. Bye.
Very bad.